Khmer clothing, that is, Cambodian clothing, refers to the styles of dress worn by the Khmer people from ancient times to the present. Bottoms. The sampots is the national garment of Cambodia, still popular among men and women of the lower class. It is basically a sarong similar to those worn in neighboring Laos and Thailand, with slight variations. Measuring approximately 1.5 meters long, the two ends of the cloth are sewn together to form a tubular garment which is worn over the lower half of the body, extending to the ankles. The wearer ties a knot of excess cloth in front to secure it at the waist. The sampots varies in color, material and dimensions depending on the gender and social class of the wearer. Historically, the sampots dates back to the Funan era, in which a Cambodian king, at the request of Chinese envoys, ordered his subjects to cover themselves. Sampots Chang Kben. Sampots Chang Kben was the preferred choice of women of the upper and middle classes for day-to-day wear, although the practice died out at the beginning of the 20th century. It dates back to ancient Cambodia, when deities were said to wear it. Scholars consider it ultimately to derive from the Indian dhoti. Unlike the typical sampots, it is more like pants than a skirt. It is a rectangular piece of cloth 3 meters long and 1 meter wide. It is worn by wrapping it around the waist, stretching it away from the body and twisting the knot. The knot is then pulled between the legs and held by a metal bell. Regardless of class, all Cambodian women wear the sampots Chang Kben on special occasions. Men may also wear it, but in traditional patterns suited to their gender. The sampots Chang Kben has also been adopted in Thailand and Laos, where it is known as a chongkraban. How to wear entire sampots Chang Kben. This YouTube site shows how to tie and wear a sampots Chang Kben, and, incidentally, how modern tops are now European jackets. Sampot Stepupsara. Sampot Stepupsara is a famous type of sampots from the Khmer Empire era. It can be seen on the bas-reliefs of Apsaras carved on Angkor Wat. Generally, the sampot Stepupsara is tied to safely secure it at the waist, and it is held up with a golden belt. A long pleat drops from the middle of the sampots and returns at the wearer's calf. The hem of the skirt is knotted. There are also 2 knots that hang from the waist. The left knot is longer, while the right knot is more decorative. Scholars consider this garment to descend from the Indian sari. The sampot Stepupsara is no longer day wear in modern Cambodia. Sampot Samloi. Sampot Samloi is a long unisex daytime skirt. The word Samloi initially referred to color, which in ancient times was always black. Now it is sometimes used for a thin, soft fabric with decoration and pattern similar to the sarong batik, although the garment may be smaller. This style of dress needs a knot to secure it, making it similar to the sampots Chang Kben. However, it also needs a fold at the left or right side, like a sarong. Another similar sampots, primarily worn by women and known as the samloi, was knotted in the middle and hitched at the knee to facilitate leg movement. Scholars consider this style of dress to derive from the Indian lungi. The samloi was commonly worn in the post-Angkor era. Sampots Korobap. Sampots Korobap is a long silk skirt embroidered with gold thread. It is worn by women in Khmer classical dance, by newlyweds and by the character of Mewar in the Cambodian royal ploughing ceremony. Sampot Sang. Sampot Sang is a short embroidered silk skirt. Sampot Cisua. Sampot Cisua is a monochromatic skirt with a band along the lower hem embroidered in gold or silver. Today, this skirt is more popular among Laotian women than among the Khmer. Sampots Burk. Sampots Burk is a long silk embroidered skirt. Today it is worn in marriage ceremonies, as is the Sampot Sabam. The Sampotsburg was mostly worn by Cambodian nobility in the Lovik era. Sampotsalorn is a long skirt with vertical stripes, commonly worn by old people or farmers in the countryside. The Sampotsalorn is similar to the Burmese long yi tops. There are many tops or shirts worn in Cambodia. The traditional aoa was invented at the end of the Khmer Empire at the turn of the 14th century. Changpong. Changpong is a piece of fabric in any color worn by Khmer people at the end of the 13th century. It was primarily worn by women, who started using it to cover the chest, leaving only the stomach uncovered. This method, called changpol, covered the back and each side of the fabric to join at the chest and was rolled up and tied. It then evolved into tronam, a thick and strong fabric cover on the chest, which hugged the body closely. Sometimes, the common style of wearing this garment was similar to that of the Aoa Changpok. However, Aoa Tronim did not leave as much skin uncovered as Aoa Changpok. The Aoa Tronim was popular among rich young women in the Chatamok era. Today it is an important costume in Khmer classical dance. Avbumpong means tube skirt in English due to its appearance as a long tube, close to the body at the neck from which it hangs easily. Aoa Bupok is a long shirt, more like a dress than the regular shirt, similar to the Vietnamese áo dai, the Indian kurta and the Malaysian baju kurung. Generally it has a collar with a button at the neck to fasten from neck to chest like a kurta, while it normally narrows at the waist like a baju kurung. But it has a small hidden cut at the hem like an áo dai, which allows the lower part of the shirt to spread out. Most such tops are knee-length, just a few stopping at the thigh. This top was famous worn by rich women in the Lovik era in Adong. Avdaipuon. Avdaipuon is a traditional blouse from the Lovik era. Daipuon means short puffed sleeves. This top usually had a row of buttons down the front. Only the richest women of that era could have afforded one. Avpnotk bark. Avpnotk bark is a formal shirt primarily worn by wealthy young women. It is often adorned with a row of pleats with floral decorations and often paired with a collar and sleeve hems in the same style. The period in which this shirt was invented is not known. This top is quite similar to a Burmese style, and may have been influenced by Burmese culture. Avniang November. Avniang November is a long-sleeved shirt for women. Avbarbi Ovi is a sleeveless coat worn over the Avniang November and Avdaipuon. It has double buttons at the pleat. The name of Avbarbi Ovi means literally lotus leaves in Thai. Avpak is a recently popular fashion blouse worn by Cambodian women. It is the Khmer version of the Javanese kebaya with plain stamped cotton, elaborately hand-painted and embroidered with silk and gold thread. In the past, this kind of top was pure white in color with a high, fully embroidered collar. Today, it has more gold thread and embroidery in several colors. It also has a narrow cut, very popular with young and middle-aged Khmer women, to the point where it has been used as a modern costume affirming national identity when worn both inside and outside the country. It is usually combined with the sampots hol, occasionally with the sampots chang kben. Krama. Cambodians traditionally wear a checkered scarf called a krama. The krama has been a feature of Khmer dress since the 1st century reign of Priya Bath Huntin, although it is unclear exactly when the krama became fashionable in the street. The krama is one trait that distinguishes the Khmer from the Thai, Vietnamese, and Laotian neighbors. It is used for many purposes, including for style, for protection from the hot sun, as an aid for one's feet when climbing trees, as a hammock for infants, as a towel, or as a sarong. A krama can also be easily shaped into a small child's doll for play. Under the Khmer Rouge, all Khmer were forced to wear a checkered krama. The conical bamboo hat is worn by many, especially by workers in the countryside to shade them from the sun. This, however, is a Vietnamese hat adopted to a certain extent by Khmer in the provinces adjacent to Vietnam. Textiles. In addition to the stylistic features, sampots especially are differentiated by the fabric they are made from. There are three important silk textiles in Cambodia: the Ikit silks, or whole, the twill pattern silks, and the weft Ikit textiles. Patterns are made by tying natural or synthetic fibers on the weft threads and then dyeing them. This process is repeated with different colors until the pattern's firm and cloth is woven. Red, yellow, green, blue and black are the most commonly used colors. Colors were traditionally allocated to different days of the week. Starting at Monday, they were dark yellow, purple, green, light green, dark blue, dark red, and bright red. The sampot's hol is used as a lower garment, as is the sampot's chang kben. The piton hol is used as a ceremonial hanging for religious purposes. Sot silk weaving has been an important part of Cambodia's cultural past. It is documented that people in Takeo province have woven silk since the Funan era. Written records, bas-reliefs and the report of the Chinese emissary Zhou Daguan show that looms have been used to weave sampots since ancient times. Women learned to apply highly complex methods and intricate patterns. The hol or Ikit method involves dyeing patterns on silk before it is woven. A method unique to Cambodian weavers is the uneven twill technique. Although it is unclear why they adopted such an unusual method, the ancient bas-reliefs provide a detailed look at fabric patterns and pleats. Silk-woven pieces are used to decorate temples. Heirloom pieces are worn at weddings and funerals. Raising silkworms in Cambodia is mainly women's work. The knowledge of raising worms, harvesting the silk thread, and processing the thread into correct quality yarn for weaving has been passed down through generations. However, due to the neglect of mulberry plantations during nearly 30 years of war, Cambodia's golden native yarn production fell from around 150 tons a year in the 1960s to about 6 tons a year today. All silk textiles woven in Cambodia prior to the war were woven from Khmer golden silk, so called because of its natural yellow color. Today Cambodia produces around 10% of the silk used. Most comes from Vietnam and China. Sampots Phamong. Sampots Phamong are, with many different variations, traditional Khmer textiles. They are single-colored and twill-woven. There are currently 52 colors used in Sampots Phamong. The Phamong Korobap is a luxurious fabric woven with up to 22 needles. The most valued silk used to create the Phamong is Cambodian yellow silk, known for its fine quality. New Phamong designs draw inspiration from ancient silk patterns and usually contain floral and geometrical motifs. Popular variations include Rabik, Chorkung, Anlaun, and even Bantok. Sampots hol. Sampots hol is a typical traditional textile. There are two kinds of sampots hol. One is a wrapping skirt that uses a technique called chong kiet. The other uses a twill weave. Influenced by the Indian patola, it has become a genuine Khmer art style after hundreds of years. The sampots hol comes in over 200 patterns and 3 to 5 colors. There are 4 principal variations: Sampots hol, Sampots hol por, Sampots hol kben and Sampots hol katong. Patterns are usually formed with animal, geometric or floral motifs. Both Sampots Famong and Sampots Hol are believed to have originated from the original Sampots in the Udong era, as the word Famong comes from the Siamese language, in which Pha mean fabric and Mung means indigo. Sampots Hol was introduced as a ceremonial skirt cloth to the Thai court as Sampak Pum or Pha Pum in the 19th century. Thai culture thus influenced Khmer culture, but Khmer weaving bears its own distinctive traits, as Cambodia already had a weaving culture before the Klung civilization formed. The Khmer king ordered his people to wear sampots as the request of Chinese envoys in the Funan era, so Khmer culture affected Siamese society. First, the Thai people adopted the Khmer sampots, then they adapted and developed it to become the Sampots Famong, which was in turn adopted by the Khmer. The words Sampots, Sampots Chang Kben, Sampots Hol and so on are entirely Khmer. The cultural influence ran both ways. Cambodian clothing styles by period. The Khmer Sampots with its many variations was generally regarded as the national dress of Cambodia, but variations in clothes sharply indicated position in a firm social hierarchy, as well as regional and period changes. New fashions were slowly passed down to the generations, though some clothing styles disappeared only to be restored in a later period. Funan era. Clothing styles in the first Cambodian period were overwhelmingly influenced by India, at least until the Khmer king at the request of Chinese envoys ordered his subjects to wear the sampots. Despite some similarities, men and women wore distinct clothing styles. Men. All the males in the region wore Indian clothing. The people in the region generally wore sampots Chang Kben, but much more Indian-looking than today. The king, his family and nobles had their own style of Sarabha textile imported from China. A bas-relief shows wealthy people wearing the cloth as a dhoti, winding it around the upper body and tying the waist with a thin piece of cloth. Noblemen and royalty wore the sampots Chang Kben in everyday life with the chest exposed. Varieties of yantra tattooing in ancient Khmer script were inscribed on the bodies for spiritual protection. With the spread of Hinduism across the country, the king wore a crown with different colored corners to show his royalty. Women wore brocaded sarongs, probably sampots in different colors, held at the waist with a gold bell. The most useful sampots would have been a sampot sarabap, made from the expensive light silk of the country. This left the upper body naked, but women would have added a sarong or as a collar to display their jewelry, including big triangular earrings of wood or gold, or earrings shaped like bracelets. Short, straight hairstyles were worn by non-royal courtiers. The chine yon, a top knot, was typically reserved for royalty. Unlike the rich, the poor wore a simple straw skirt around the waist, one made of animal skin or cotton. They had no jewelry but wore hairstyles similar to those of the rich. Chenla. Clothing styles in this period bore certain resemblances to those in Funan. However, according to the Ba belief at Phat Pho, a surviving ruin of Chenla, its national costume differed significantly from that of Funan, excepting the headdress worn at the time only by the king. Men would tie the hair into a top knot and crown it with a Funan-style headdress. Men continued to wear the sampots, but in many variations. The men wore a kind of collar but displayed a naked chest. A sword or dagger at the chest indicated bravery. Developed musculature indicated manly strength. Women also tied their hair into a top knot but adorned the head with a flower. They would also crown the head with a floral circlet made of gold. They wore the sampots or a floral textile sarong with a pidon cloth, matched with a golden belt and held by a new style of Khmer sarong or below the neck. Breasts and stomach remained naked. The most striking development of this period is the ladies-in-waiting of the palace wearing a shawl like sbai over the left shoulder to cover the breast and stomach in a Buddhist manner. Royal women wore a sava, a loosely decorated band of beads worn crosswise. Angkor era. In the Khmer Empire or Angkor period, Khmer styles moved firmly away from the Indian styles of earlier periods. At the same time, Khmer culture spread its influence far beyond the boundaries of the empire. In Joe Dagon's description of the Khmer people we find the following. Among the Khmer, both men and women wore the hair tied up in a knot. All were naked to the waist with a cloth around the hips. In public they wore a larger cloth over the smaller one. All were barefoot. For the king down, social distinction was marked by the quality and decoration of the cloth. Only the king was permitted to wear cloth fully patterned with flowers. His head was also wreathed with flowers when he was not wearing a Buddha-like gold crown. On his fingers and toes he wore bracelets encrusted with gold and pearls. The palms of his hands and soles of his feet were dyed crimson. He carried the gold sword of office in public. Parasols, as extensions of clothing, were severely graded in number and gilding from the king's 8 or more parasols down to a Buddhist monk's one. The king's subjects' clothes were various reductions of the royal ensemble. Court officials and members of the royal family were permitted cloth showing a design in scattered flowers. Low officials were limited to 2 flowers. Male commoners had none, though common women were permitted to crimson the feet and hands and wear a cloth showing 2 flowers. Contemporary inscriptions and bas-reliefs of the temples at Angkor, especially Angkor Wat and Abayan, show that the cloths were various forms and widths of sampots, worn as skirts by women but hitched up into trousers or shorts by men for military action or labor. Joe Dagwan reported that the common women had no hair ornaments, though some wore golden rings or bracelets and a metal bell. Beautiful girls were sent to the court to serve the king or his family, like concubines and other court servants. They wore crimson markings on the crown of the head. Temple evidence shows that women of the era, rich and poor, used a golden buckle to cover the upper body. The top knot allowed a long ponytail worn over the shoulder. Temple bas-reliefs show how celestial apsaras were conceived. To appear in this way to royalty, a court dancer added special ornaments to Khmer elements. The sarong core was a round decorative collar, red-colored, highly visible, worn just below the neck and embellished with detailed gold-colored copper ornaments and beaded designs. The dancer added a loosely decorated band of beads worn crosswise called a sava. Her sampots was more highly decorated than usual, with 2 knots at the waist. The right knot is long but the left knot design is more charming and fashionable. The waist has a highly ornate belt decorated with warped, spear-like tips draped on a red cloth. The most used jewelry is at the ankle, dangling from the ears around the wrists. Most striking of all is the apsara's crown, a tricorn headdress of finely beaten silver or gold with 2 or 3 garlands of emeralds and gold. These were worn by royal princesses, sculptured female divinities, female dancers and female musicians. Though this costume is not usually worn today, it has become part of the high culture of Cambodia in the apsara dance. Angkor court ladies' dress was little different from the court dancers. However, bas-reliefs show the costumes of Queens Jayaraja Devi and Indra Devi to have a unique sava in a glittering gold floral print instead of apsara beading. Queen Indra Devi's crown has 10 points and a large diamond in the center holding her headdress in place. Chaktamok period. After the sack of Angkor in about 1400 by the Thai, Cambodian survivors lost their awareness of the old way of living, but developed new modes influenced by uniquely Khmer forms of thinking, with more affinity to Buddhism than the former Hindu influences. Royalty. The king wore a long-sleeved shirt sewn at the top with rich embroidery and a collar, sometimes with round decorations, sometimes with little sharp tips. There was a sort of epaulette sewn onto the shirt but arching upwards like Indra's bow, a Chinese style from the Tang dynasty. Crisscrossing the front were the Kse Sangva, chains of rank forming an X as they cross over one another. On top of them a diamond-shaped pendant. Below in knee-length, leg-hugging trousers decorated at the hem, covered by a Chang Kben descending to the thigh and with a belt at the waist. Other accessories include a rectangular loincloth at the front and sometimes two others on the side that look like fishtails. These pieces date from the Angkor era. The king wears a crown similar to one from the Angkor period, but with sharper points and higher. Men mostly went shirtless until they were sufficiently wealthy to find a suitable top. Ordinary Khmer males' attire was a wrap like a Chang Kben in several colors, but lifted to the thigh and strongly hugging the lower body to free it for physical work. Noblemen wore a round-collared shirt with a long pleat at the front and 4 pockets at the side. Most males wore the hair long. Women in this era wore highly decorated garments. Young women wrapped themselves in 2 meters of fabric in Changpok style, revealing a small part of the stomach. This fabric was usually decorated with several colors and pieces of silver, made of heavier soft cotton depend on the wearer's wealth. Wealthy women wore the Changpok with extra fabric as a shawl sewn in place to the sampots. They wore their hair up in a bun or as a chignon attached with flowers and draped over the shoulder. Older women wore quieter colors with the favorite sampot samloy and jewelry of bracelets, necklaces and earrings, made from silver, gold and other metal. Older women wore the hair in chignon style only. Common women wore the same style of clothes as the upper class but in black, most wearing sarongs with no decoration or shawl except a serviceable krama. Longvik era, Kingdom of Cambodia. The history of Khmer clothing during the Longvik, Srei Santor, Aodong and the French Protectorate eras is, for the time being, scholarly terra incognita. Shifts in fashion, especially royal fashion, follow the shifts in international power from Thai to Vietnamese to French influence. Upper garments and shoes especially approximate more and more closely to European court dress, while lower garments vacillate between breeches, trousers and sampots Chang Kben. Till this day Khmer clothing is still similar to Thai clothing. Khmer Rouge period black pajamas. The Khmer Rouge regime of the 1970s was well noted for imposing black unisex pajamas. The typical peasant outfit consisted of a collarless black shirt, agua trousers, and a checkered krama knotted loosely about the neck. Brightly colored clothing was strictly prohibited. Colors were limited to plain black, dark blue, or maroon. Women were strictly forbidden to wear Western-style trousers or jeans at any time, although after the fall of the Khmer Rouge these became increasingly popular, particularly among young women.